Today I'm going to show you how to load your quilt on your Gammill quilting frame. We get a lot of people that ask us how to load it different ways. We're going to show you the most basic way to load your quilt. So the first thing I like to do is I want to make sure that I have the right batting and backing for my top. How you can tell that is you just need to measure your top. And so for instance, the top we have here is going to be 72 by 82. So I know with that my backing and my batting need to be 78 by 88. And why is that? It's because I need an extra 6 inches, which means I need 3 inches on both sides. So when I load, I should have 3 inches on both sides left over of the batting and the backing. So when you're cutting, if you just cut that extra 6 inches, then you'll have what you need. Another way you can check is the way we've laid it out here on the table. So what you can do is you can actually lay your backing, your batting, and your top out on the table. You can kind of even them all out if you can on here. And then if you look all the way down here, I have all this left over. So this tells me that I have enough batting. This is my extra 6 inches of batting. And I obviously have plenty of backing because I use the wide back. I don't cut this off before I start loading because I really like to use this salvage to pin on. It just makes it easier to pin on. It's more even when it's pinned. But this is really all I need, and then I can cut it off when I'm done quilting and I can use that for binding. Alright, so before we load the top, we actually want to make sure we find our centers. And you're going to just basically fold it in half, which is what I did when I laid it out there to test. So you're going to fold it in half, and then I just put a pin. So then I go in and I put a pin in right there. And then I want to do the same thing on both sides. So I do one on this side and one on the other side. Now what we'll do is we'll go over and make sure that we have the bar in the right setting. So let's go over here. So our next step for loading is to make sure the bar is in the right position. Right now I do have it in the loading position, which is straight up and down, as you see there. And then what we can do now is take the pivotal access pin out. And it's in quilting position. So if you just got finished with the quilt or your machine was set up that way, it might have been in quilting position, so we want to make sure that it's in loading position now. Okay, now we need to pull up the top roller. We're going to move the clip. We're going to roll the canvas over the belly bar. And we're going to attach it with our clamps. And we're going to tighten our clamps back to be able to hold it. We're kind of using that as another hand. Then we're going to take the canvas, go across all the way to the other side. And then we're going to use the other clamp and attach it to that end. And then we will tighten it up with that elastic. And the Velcro holds it, and then we have it, and you can see how it's tight, and it's ready for me to load the quilt. So I have found my center, and I'm going to throw the top over the rollers. And I'm going to take it and spread out the top so it's going to be nice and even. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to get the top to kind of, lay out flat, center it up on my rollers so I'm ready to pin it on in just a minute. Now I'm going to take the center of my quilt, which has the corsage pin on it. And then I'm going to take the corsage pin, line it up with the line on my canvas. Then I'm just going to put it in, and then we'll get started pinning on the top. As you can see, I'm actually using the corsage pins, and I'm pinning, 1 inch to 2 inches apart to get started. And let's just kind of hold the top on there for me. And I'm taking and making sure I'm lining up the edge of the top to the canvas, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to fill in with the corsage pins, fill in those empty spaces so it's kind of, head to pin, so they're kind of almost touching each other. And we do that along the whole quilt. Alright, now it is time to take the clamp off the top fabric roller, and then we are going to rotate that back. There's a clip there that you can probably hear clicking. We'll rotate it back, You see how it's nicely flowing because we had it flat? And then when it gets about right there, we're going to stop. So now we're going to take the quilt top, take it over the belly bar, and we're just going to lay it on top of the top roller. Just kind of flatten it out to keep it straight. And if you don't like hanging it like that, then you can actually let it hit the floor and just kind of stay there. So our next step will be to grab the backing leader. We're going to unclick the clicker and then pull it through the 2 middle bars there. Now we're going to attach the clamp to that leader. We're going to pull it through those bars. Same thing we did to the top. Then attach the other clamp so we have that extra hand there. It really does help keep that canvas up, so that way it's easier to load that, backing. So I found my centers on my backing. I put a corsage pin just like I did the top. I have one on both sides. Then I'm going to open up that top, and you'll notice how I'm going to have the pretty side facing down. I'm going to spread that out. Sometimes it takes just a little bit longer when it's, wide like that. But you spread it out, you want to get it nice and neat. I'll walk around the back, I'll move it and spread it out there so that way when it's time to pin the back, it's already ready. Alright, so I'm getting the center, and I'm going to take that corsage pin and then mark it up with the center mark that's on the back roller as well. And I'll do the same thing. I'll just pin them, 1 inch to 2 inches apart, and then fill them in with the corsage pins like I did on the top fabric. And then notice I just go back and I fill them in. And I'll generally go across the whole top and then come back and fill them in. But this just kind of gives you an idea. And then I'll keep doing that on the rest. Now that I have it loaded, I'm going to grab my clickers and then rotate it back. And notice how the canvas kind of messes up there a little bit, pinches in. Just straighten it out. You're going to want to do that on both sides. Then you just keep rotating it until the back hits the table, and then you stop. And then you'll go around to the back. You're going to unclick the clicker on the back. Once you unclick the clicker, you'll put it back on, and then you're going to find your center on the pickup roller bar canvas. And then you do the same thing as if you did on the front. You're going to line up the selvage on the fabric to the edge of the canvas, and then just start pinning away. Now I want to show you a way to kind of even out if you put wide back on. Sometimes there'll be a little, like a loopy spot in there. You can roll your wide back all the way up on your pickup roller first. Then you can go back, then rotate it back on your back roller. Notice how my hand's holding the pickup roller crank there so it doesn't just go crazy. I'm going to rotate it all the way back. Slowly gets out any of those creases and just lines it up really nice for you. Now that we have our backing the way we want, we're going to go over and just make sure it's not too tight, which is good. You want to have a little bit of loose there. You don't want it to be too tight like to, So I'm going to find my center on my batting. Then I'm just going to pull it between those two bars. And I actually pull it from underneath because it's just a little bit easier to get a handle of the batting and keep it straight. I don't have to stuff it through, or sometimes holes will happen. So I like to do it this way, and then I take my center and I find my center point on my canvas. Put my pin in. And as you notice over time, if it be, it's going to pick up some of those fibers from the top, and you can take all those off before you secure your top on there. Just keep lining it up straight. Okay, now it's time to baste. So we're going to baste our batting on, and we're going to use a channel lock. So your horizontal channel lock, you'll lock that in. You want to baste that on. You could do 1/2 inch, an inch. Today we're using an inch. And it's more to keep that batting in place. Now notice how I'm pushing my hand down to kind of keep it flat so it doesn't, the foot doesn't feed it to the side. Make sure you're taking out the corsage pins as you go. You definitely don't want to run over a corsage pin. Horizontal lock is so nice on this machine because it just keeps it straight for you. Keep doing that basting stitch all the way to the end. We'll secure our stitch and move on. Okay, now we're going to take the top and we're going to line it up with our center mark. That's why that corsage pin is still in there. Just kind of put the corsage pin in there to hold it down. Then we're going to line the rest of our quilt top up to our basting line that we made. Yep, see how I got it lined up right there? Now we're going to put a corsage pin in. And that's just going to hold it in place for us so that we can stitch it down. We'll continue doing that all the way across the top. We're going to take the top, line it up to the basting stitch on that side. And because we use the horizontal lock, we're lining it up to a straight line. And this is how you square off that quilt. This helps keep it even, so when you're quilting, it rotates even. Flatten it out and you're good to go. Alright, so as you see, you'll see the extra inches there, the extra batting, extra backing. You know that you have it loaded on right and straight. So now it's time to secure your top on. Now we're securing the stitch. We're doing a 1/2 inch basting stitch. Again, our horizontal lock is on to keep that straight. I'm using my hand to kind of hold the fabric. Move the corsage pins out of the way as you go. Just keep kind of holding the fabric with your hand. You can move over, stop the machine. Move any threads out that you see. And now we have our top secured. Our next step is going to be to loosen the clickers there. And then we want to put the bar into quilting position. So we'll take the pivotal access pin out, put it back in, put our clickers back down. We're going to tighten the backing and the top. We'll go over and we'll straighten out the top. Get all the creases out. And then tighten it just a little bit more with that top roller. We want to make sure our backing is kind of taut there. Then we're going to baste down the side. So you can pull your stitch up. You can use a vertical channel lock if you want. 1/2 inch basting stitch. And we'll just take it all the way down to the bottom there. And then we'll stop and secure our stitch. Then we go to the other side of the quilt, secure our stitch, and then we're going to baste down. Same thing, 1/2 inch basting stitch. Kind of hold the fabric there. You kind of hold it to the side like that. See how my hand's holding the fabric? Just to kind of keep it in place as I'm going down the edge of the quilt doing my basting stitch. We'll secure it at the end and we're done. Now we're going to attach the clamps. This is our last step. Two clamps. Notice how I'm putting it on the backing. I'm not putting it on the top. Now if my batting was the same size as my backing, I could put it on the batting too, but I don't want to put it on the quilt top. So I'll attach both sides about evenly to give it an even pull. So that was the process of loading the quilt on the frame. As you see, we have our 3 inches all the way around, so you want to make sure that it looks like that. That's laying flat, you have your clamps on, your batting's flowing great, and you are ready to quilt. Thanks for joining me today.